I'm so happy to finally meet you. And I am here because I've read a very interesting story in the Palatka Daily News like last week. And then that story, they talked about a Union soldier that had stolen a Bible from the St. Mark's Episcopal Church, and then miraculously it appeared 50 some odd years later. Can you share with us about that? And you are you are the historian for the church?
Yeah, with a great interest in the church's history, I've taken on some research and printed up some little booklets.
So share with us about so this is the Bible.
Yeah, this is the Bible.
And so how did it come back to the church?
We discovered a letter from 1906 in the church archives that described a man named Downs from Connecticut who had been here during the occupation of Palatka in the Civil War in 1864. And Union troops had occupied Palatka to protect the important seaport, river port. And when they evacuated, one of the soldiers took the church's Bible and the church's register. And then in 1906, we received a letter from Mr. Downs in Connecticut to a Judge Cox here in Palatka saying that one of the soldiers had stolen the Bible and he wanted to return a Bible to us. So we don't know that this is the original Bible, but the date and the story that's in our archives suggests this is the Bible. Daniel Schaefer wrote a book about the Civil War in our area called Thunder on the River.
Yes, I'm familiar with it, yes.
And he described that in Jacksonville, St. John's Church was destroyed by fire, and Dr. Walton rescued the Bible there, and it was a gilt-edged Bible. And in Mr. Downs's letter, he described that the Bible came from St. John's Church, which he thought was destroyed with fire. But we think, or Nancy Alvers, who did the research on St. Mark's history, said that perhaps he was mistaken on the history because we didn't incur a fire, but we did lose our Bible by theft.
So the Union soldiers occupied Palatka. I believe there were like 5,500 troops here, but you were mentioning to me that they also, they made the church their headquarters, or how did they utilize the church itself?
Well, they did use it as a facility for meetings, and we had an African-American pastor that was one of the soldiers assigned here, and he would have church meetings and funerals and tend to the sick, and he even started a school for the soldiers that couldn't read and write, so he taught them. And his name was John Bowles. He came from Ohio. And the soldiers also stabled their horses here in the church, up here behind the altar rail.
Is that right?
Yeah, and we knew it happened because there used to be horseshoe prints in the soft wooden floor.
So the floor is gone though now. But,
yeah, some well-meaning person sanded the floor. But we have parishioners that saw those.
Oh,
those hoof
that's just incredibly interesting. So you have the original letter with you that came with the Bible when it was returned.
We do.
All right, Diane, tell me what we've got here.
This is the original letter from 1906 from Mr. Downs to Judge Cox here in Palatka.
Oh, wow. And so it looks like it's 3 or 4 pages long?
Correct.
Okay, could we get to the last page, do you think?
Yes.
Okay, there's even a P.O. box there. And the guy's name was, I guess, we don't even know if he was a soldier, do we?
Correct.
And it says T.W. Downs. And you have the original letter. That is just so fascinating. And St. Mark's Church itself, when was it first built?
Well, it was established in 1853.
Okay.
So it was probably built in 1854, 1855. And it's the only Carpenter Gothic church before the Civil War that was hand-drawn by architect Richard Upjohn, who was the first president of the American Institute of Architects.
Very cool. And so now, while we're here, can we have a peek at the Bible itself? Maybe you can just...
Sure.
We can get a look at... Oh, my goodness.
Super fragile.
And maybe that first... There we go. And I was trying to do... Of course, back then, they didn't have copyright dates on books, is my basic understanding. I could be wrong on that. But we do see it is printed by... I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. Ear and Spotswood in London. So, golly, this is just a fascinating story, and thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Oh, glad to know.